All right, let's get right into it. There is a wild, high stakes game of naval cat and mouse playing out right now in the North Atlantic. And it all revolves around one single oil tanker. But trust me, this isn't just some simple chase. It's a huge international standoff involving warships, sanctions, and some really tricky legal questions. So just try to picture this. You're hundreds of miles from, well, anywhere. South of Iceland, in some of the roughest, most challenging seas on the entire planet. The isolation out there is just immense, and the tension is even higher. The United States Coast Guard and military are on it. They're actively tracking and, from what reports are saying, getting ready to seize a vessel. Their mission? It's pretty straightforward. Stop a ship they're convinced is breaking international sanctions. Now, here's the thing that makes this so incredibly tense. The tanker, it isn't alone. It has an escort, a really powerful one. And I'm not talking about some private security team. We are talking about a major global military power providing protection. And that leads us to the million-dollar question, right? Why on earth would the Russian Navy reportedly send a submarine and other ships just to guard this one tanker? Well, to really get it, we've got to break down who's who in this showdown and what this tanker is all about. Okay, so first things first, let's look at the players involved in this incredibly tense situation that's unfolding on the open ocean as we speak. On one side, you've got the United States. They have a massive Coast Guard cutter on the scene, and it's being supported by military aircraft that just showed up in the area. And on the other side, well, that's Russia. Reports are saying they've sent a submarine along with other naval ships to shadow the tanker. So yeah, this is a serious military lineup on both sides. And caught right in the crosshairs is this one ship, the oil tanker Marinera. The U.S. is alleging it's part of a whole network that's been shipping sanctioned oil from both Iran and Venezuela. So you can see, this isn't just some random vessel. The U.S. has had its eyes on this particular one for weeks now. So how did we even get here to this standoff? I mean, this whole thing didn't just pop up overnight. It's really the climax of a wild chase that started clear across the Atlantic. Let's just walk through the timeline. A month ago, it's down in the Caribbean. The U.S. Coast Guard shows up, warrant in hand, ready to board. So what does the ship do? It pulls a fast one, makes a hard turn, and bolts for Europe. Then, just a couple days ago, it zips right past the west coast of the UK, pushing further north. And that brings us to today, where it's being tailed by both the U.S. and, you guessed it, Russia. But in the middle of this whole chase, the tanker did something, well, something very clever. A crucial strategic move that completely changed the game, both legally and geopolitically. So, before all this, the ship was called the Bella One. It was flying the flag of Guyana. That was its whole identity when the U.S. first came knocking. Then, right in the middle of its voyage, a total identity swap. It gets a new name, the Marinera, and, this is the most important part, it gets re-registered. It is now flying the state flag of the Russian Federation. Now, this move is called reflagging. And believe me, it's way more than just a paint job. In the world of maritime law, your flag is everything. It means you're under the legal protection of that country. So by raising the Russian flag, the Marinera was basically sending up a flare, asking Moscow for help. And that one move, that reflagging, well, it throws this whole confrontation into a massive legal gray area, because now you have two totally different ways of looking at international law. Okay, so from the U.S. point of view, the flag is just a costume. As experts like Dimitris Ampazidis point out, the U.S. is looking at the ship's permanent ID number, who owns it, and its long history of breaking sanctions. For them, you can't just slap on a new name and flag and pretend the past didn't happen. But, and this is a really big but, here's the other side of the coin. An analyst named Michelle Bachman explains that this move makes things way more complicated for the U.S. See, under international law, it's much easier to board a stateless ship. But by flying the Russian flag, the tanker isn't stateless anymore. So trying to board it now against Russia's wishes, that's a much more aggressive act. So you see the clash, right? The U.S. says, hey, we know who this ship really is, and that makes it a fair target. Russia says, nope, it's flying our flag, and that means it's under our protection. The scary part? Both sides think they're right. And that's exactly what makes this standoff so dangerous. Now, let's zoom out for a second, because what's really fascinating here is that this whole situation with the Marinera, it's not a one-off. It's actually part of a much bigger, very recent trend involving a growing shadow fleet of tankers. So what kicked all this off? Well, just last month, the U.S. actually managed to seize another tanker, the Skipper, in a very similar situation. And that single action? It sent a massive shockwave through the world of illicit shipping. And, it triggered a pretty immediate response. The reaction from all those other tankers in the Shadow Fleet was incredibly fast. And it really all comes down to this one number. 19. That's right. In the short time since the Skipper was seized, 19 other U.S.-sanctioned tankers have switched their flags to Russia. Come on, that's not a coincidence. It's a clear, coordinated strategy. Go find protection from a country that's willing to challenge U.S. sanctions enforcement. And this just lays out the new playbook perfectly, doesn't it? Step 1, transport sanctioned oil. Step 2, use deceptive tactics like changing your name and flag mid-voyage. And now, the new power move? Step 3, get a major power like Russia to give you a flag and act as your shield. So, all of that brings us right back to where we started, the freezing, choppy waters of the North Atlantic, where this whole crisis is still playing out in real time. You've got the U.S. absolutely determined to enforce its sanctions, and Russia just as determined to protect its newly flagged vessel. The whole world is watching this play out. So in this high-stakes, global game of cat and mouse, with warships locked in a tense standoff over one single tanker, the question on everyone's mind is, who will blink